What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is the Storm Cat 2-cycle generator, and the problem is it was given to me by a friend and I don't know if it runs. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this generator. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. I've never heard of this brand of generator before, but if you've seen my other video on the tailgater generator, then this design will be very familiar to you. I do believe that other companies sell the same generators, but they just rebrand them. Now, it's a simple generator that's not difficult to work on. It's extremely portable, and the only thing that would be nice is if it was just a bit quieter. Now, just as a reminder, the generators are to be ran outdoors and never in your garage. I have heard of people doing this, but it's simply not worth the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, of all the stickers on this generator, this is the most important one if you want your generator to last. It's a pain to do, but it asks you to empty the gas tank before storing it, which is kind of difficult to do on this style of generator. There's still fuel in the tank, and it still smells like gas and not paint thinner, so we should still be okay. Now, this is kind of interesting. There's a small measuring cup inside the tank, so you can measure your own oil with your gas. I can see there's still plenty of fuel in the tank, so let's try starting it and see what it does and doesn't do. So it didn't even try and start, so now I have to wonder if the engine is worn out. If it was ran with less oil in the gas than normal, then the engine would also wear out faster than normal. A simple test is to slowly pull on the rope and feel how much the engine is fighting back. This one is fighting back very well, so I'm sure it's not worn out. A worn out engine has a harder time starting if it starts at all. For a better gauge on how worn out it is, I would use a compression tester. Now, you can find these at your local auto parts store or online for about $15. Just remove the spark plug, thread it into the engine, and pull the rope till the needle stops moving. We want to see a reading of at least 100 psi, and the higher the better. So the reading is about 120 psi, which is more than enough for this engine to run. If it was less than 100 psi though, I'd have to inspect the engine for piston ring damage. The next thing I want to do is check to see if we have spark from the ignition system. To do that, I'll use a spark checker. Now you can find these at your local auto parts store or online for just a few dollars. Simply install it in line with your spark plug and pull the rope and watch for an orange glow in the tester. It's kind of hard to see the orange glow, so I stopped the video so you can see it. Now that we know that we have spark, I want to put some fuel into the spark plug hole and try starting the engine. If it runs for a second, then we know we have a decent running engine, and then we can check the next thing on our list. Fortunately, the engine started and ran for a second, so the last thing we want to do before we tear into the carburetor is inspect the fuel that came inside the tank. We know that the engine runs, and if we don't have to inspect the carburetor, we'll save a lot of time. Now, the easiest way for us to inspect the fuel is to siphon it into a glass jar. We're looking for its color and oil concentration, as well if there's any water in it. Now, I don't really care for green 2-cycle oil because after it's mixed, it's hard to tell by sight if you're close to the correct ratio of oil to gas. I do find that any other color than this one is a lot easier to tell if the mixture is off. Now, I don't see any water in the fuel, but unfortunately it's just too green, so that means there's too much oil and not enough gas in this mixture. However, I don't think they mixed the gas wrong, and that's because if there was too much oil, the engine would still start, but it would just smoke a lot. Now, this fuel isn't that old, but I have a feeling it's not fresh enough for the engine to run on it. What I want to do is get to the drain bolt on the bowl and drain the rest of the fuel out of the fuel line and the bowl. I'll then put fresh fuel in the tank and try starting it. If you just siphon out the fuel from the tank and put fresh fuel in, there'll still be old fuel in the fuel line and the carburetor bowl, so it still won't start until that old fuel is gone out of the system. Another reason why this generator might not be starting is that there's scaling inside the fuel tank that's keeping the fuel from leaving the tank and making its way to the carburetor. To test this out, pull the fuel line off the carb and open the valve and see how much fuel comes out of the line. There should be a light stream coming out of it, and if it's not, use some compressed air in the line to clear the debris in the tank. Now if it works for a while and then the fuel stops again, you might need to clean out the scaling inside the tank. I like to use blue 2-cycle oil in my fuel mix. I also use non-synthetic oil, but I know some people choose high-quality synthetic oil and have had great success with it. Choose whatever you want, but I would always suggest using gasoline with no ethanol if possible. Out of habit, I usually don't use the on-off switch when turning off a generator. Instead, I turn the fuel valve off and let it run till it stops, which this time took about 2 minutes. Then I try to restart it a couple times till it will not start again. Then I know the carburetor won't be damaged by old gas while in storage. Of course, you don't have to use this method, but if you don't, then I would suggest opening the drain bolt on the carburetor, and unfortunately on this generator, it's just not that easy to do compared to larger units. I don't know if this size generator is for everyone, but for a little over $100, it's easy to have power to run lights, fans, and corded power equipment if gas tools aren't available. I don't know if this would be a good unit to have in an emergency situation, but some power is better than no power. The biggest problem is keeping enough gas around to use this generator for long periods of time. So my question is, after this extreme cold spell, would you consider buying a generator if you didn't already have one? Or do you think it's a waste of money buying something that you may never use? Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions, and I hope to see you in the next video.